I'm going to tell you why dropping out of uni might be the best decision you will ever make. A lot of people are stuck in places they don't want to be, studying degrees they actually hate, confused about what to do with their lives, and scared to make the decision to drop everything and finally start living. And 7 years ago, I was just like that. Before I came to the UK, I used to major in cultural studies in Bulgaria, and I hated it. This is the story of how I made the decision not only to leave the university, but also the country. Here's the thing. Back home, the concept of gap year doesn't really exist. I don't know if things have changed since I've left, but that's how it used to be. And so after high school, you would either go straight into uni or you just wouldn't go into higher education at all. So for me, taking the time to decide what I really wanted to do, or like to spend a year exploring or just trying out different things or just taking a break from education, that wasn't an option, okay? It just wasn't an option. So why did I choose cultural studies? Well, I thought I wanted to study art history. I don't know how things are now, but back when I was applying, the only place you could go and study art history was the art academy. And to get into the art academy, you had to sit the academy's exams. And to sit those exams, you had to spend, I think, about a year or two preparing for those exams. And you would go to like courses that were hosted by the art academy itself. I didn't do that. I decided I want to study art history. I'd say my final year of high school, and that was a bit too late to go off and start taking courses and try and see the exam and pass and get into the academy.
Sheriff, this is no time to panic. This is the perfect time to panic!
And so I was left with cultural studies because they offered some modules on art history and aesthetics or something like that. Don't get me wrong, I was excited when I started the course. At the beginning, I found everything interesting. And then, as we progressed through year one, I started finding the course and the teachers extremely annoying. It wasn't the content that I hated. It was the way we were being taught and treated. I also very quickly found out that I could get top grades even without attending any classes, and I just put the bare minimum into studying. Which meant that I wasn't being challenged at all, and I hated that. I got bored and I was finding it annoying, and I was thinking, what's going to be the point of this degree? At this point, I'm just going to get a piece of paper that's going to say I have this degree, but there's going to be nothing behind it. Why? And I really did just completely stop going to lectures and seminars, and keep in mind, none of them are recorded, okay? I don't know how it is now, again. I assume COVID changed things. But back then, you had to be there in person and you had to be taking notes, and you didn't have the online resources. And most of the time, you would have lectures and seminars from like, let's say, 8 or 9 a.m. until like 5 or 6 p.m. It was that type of like uni teaching style. And I barely went to any of my classes, okay? Especially in year two. In year two, I completely gave up. I was like, nah, I ain't doing that, no way. And I would still get good grades. Why? How? What's happening? Anyway, make your own conclusions. But the last drop really was the way some teachers treated the students, and the fact that even if we complained about it, nothing would be done.
There are no rules, ma'am. We're lost. No.
I will never, ever forget going to one of my oral assessments and sitting down, and before I had even opened my mouth to speak, the teacher told me, you know, being aesthetically pleasing won't be enough. I was like, what? How am I supposed to take this?
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
And at a different exam, I remember a student being told, just because you wear glasses doesn't mean you're smart. What are we doing? Again, make your own conclusions. The decision to drop out and move was honestly one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. The main issue was my dad, because he's actually a lecturer at the uni I used to go to, and I found telling him about the issues I had very hard, mainly because I knew that he would go in guns blazing, and I hated the idea of getting any sort of special treatment because he was my dad, so I just didn't tell him anything. I kind of told him once I knew I was accepted into a UK uni and I knew where I was going and what I was going to study and I had everything set in place, and that is when I told him yeah.
Applaud, everyone! Applaud sarcastically. No, that sounds too sincere. Slow clap. There we go.
And so after I was accepted into UK uni and after I told my dad, I officially dropped out of uni, and then I started working so I can save up some money before I came here. I did choose a very different area of study for my course here in the UK, and that's because I actually took those 2 years of studying in a Bulgarian uni to find out what I was really interested in and what I would actually really like to study, and that was politics, international relations, which then progressed into law. But let's say I kind of took my own version of a gap year. Let's actually make them 3 years worth of gap year, because I wasted 2 years at uni thinking that I could do this and I'm just gonna do it, and then I was like, nah, not happening. And then in the middle of my second year, that's when everything started happening. And then 1 year of working before I went. I wasted 3 years of my life stuck doing stuff I hated because I was scared. Don't make my mistakes. And I also had like this small period of like personal discovery, let's say it that way, where I realized that I didn't actually want to study art. I just thought I had to study art. And you know, the backstory to that is, again, family. Because you know, when you're growing up, family plays a huge role in what you think of yourself and your goals. My aunt was a huge influence and inspiration for me as I was growing up, and she still is to some extent. She's a painter, a designer, she makes clothes, jewelry, home decors, anything under the sun, honestly. She's absolutely amazing, and everything she makes is so beautiful, and I just grew up surrounded by her art. And I felt like I wanted to do art as well. I wanted to be like her in some way. And growing up, I had this feeling that the best way for me to connect with her was by doing art. And I also had this feeling that I kind of had to prove myself to her. And once I realized that I felt this way, and I realized that it was stupid of me to feel this way, because my connection with her won't disappear because I decide to pursue something else, I felt free. And so I headed straight for what I enjoyed the most. Well, the most after dancing. And that was problem solving and negotiating and debating. So I went into politics and then law. And at every single uni I applied to, apart from Kent, which is where I ended up going, I applied for a law degree. And I chose Kent solely because of the year abroad in Japan. And a few years later, here I am, a politics graduate, a law student, and that 1 year in Japan was the best year of my life so far. And if I hadn't made the decision to drop out, I would have never went to Japan. I would have never met the amazing people I met. I would have never found out what it is I really want to do in life and what I'm really passionate about. I would have stayed back home, never experienced the world outside of my comfort zone, and be stuck in a job I hate. And I am so proud of the 2016 M who decided to drop everything and just go into the unknown.
To explore strange new worlds.
Take this video as your sign to sit down and think about what it is you actually want to do, what's stopping you, and what you can do to get over the obstacles you have, and then go and do it. And finally, if you want to know more about my experience studying in Japan, or if you want a brief crash course on what you should know before applying to a UK uni, then click somewhere around here. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.